How's it going, man?
Hey mate, how are you?
Eric.
Doing excellent. So you guys are just waking up then in Australia, right?
No way. We get up at 4 and start.
Well, it's your morning anyways.
Yeah, it's our morning.
Very good. You've been up for a couple hours already. Looks like you may be hitting the gym behind you.
Yeah, we've just been training. So we're doing a bit of rehab for Jet.
Sure. And so today is the EricSwahnRacing.com podcast, I believe episode number 134 with Benjamin Nott, MotoStrengthCoach. And who do you have next to you?
So this is Jet Alsop.
All right. Very good. How's it going, man?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. Just wanted to get your story, both of you together, and see how you're doing, seeing what you can help provide the world with some information about riding and racing, and just talk shit, have fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Very good. So let's see. What's it like there in Australia? Is it really hot right now? What's the weather like?
So at the moment we're in winter. So we're pretty much in the middle of winter, so it's still quite warm.
Okay, you're in Celsius now, right?
Yes, we are. So we're sitting at about, what do you reckon, 15 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
Maybe 17 degrees.
Yeah, 17 degrees. And that's at about, 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'll probably hit about 20.
Okay, I gotcha.
Maybe.
Just doing some quick calculations here and trying.
No, that's fine. Yeah, sorry about that. I should be able to do that in my head almost.
Yeah, no worries. So it's I just moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. So it's like 43 Celsius here right now.
Yeah, okay.
So
is it summer there right now?
Yeah, it's summer right now. So we're opposite of you guys, right? So it was 116 degrees the other day. Fahrenheit, which is like 45 Celsius, I think, something like that.
Yeah, were you out on the track or anything?
Yeah, every day. I work as a racing coach myself for sports cars right now, and so we're in the cars. Most of the cars have good AC, which is nice, but sometimes if we're going really fast, the cars slowly get warmer and warmer, and then just blowing hot air. I'm like, okay, we need to take a cool down lap and come back into the pits for a minute because the car's overheating. It happens.
Yeah, wow. Jet tends to race in the heat quite a lot because we've got a track here at Coolum, and it would be one of the hotter tracks on the circuit. Hey,
yeah, especially because it's sand. It's very, very hard work, and in the summer it can be pretty brutal.
And what discipline are you racing?
I race motocross.
Okay.
Pro motocross in Australia.
Heck yeah! And so, how are you doing in the championship right now? I know you sounds like you're maybe injured and recovering, but before that, how are you doing?
I was doing not too bad. I've had a few bike issues, but at the moment I am injured. I've got a torn ACL, but
MCL.
And MCL and meniscus, but I've had them repaired, so I'm on the recovery track now.
So had some surgeries.
Get him in strong for next year.
Yeah.
Good. You had some surgeries on it to repair those?
Yeah. Had one surgery, is fairly big surgery, but yeah, it's getting better each day. Feeling a bit better.
Very good. I just noticed you might have a green screen behind you.
Yeah, we do. So this what you're actually seeing now is not even real.
I didn't even notice that at first, honestly, until I saw the couch behind you. I was like, wow,
it's quite good, isn't it?
That looks good, yeah. I just ruined
it. So this is how we're actually sitting.
Perfect. Yeah, this is just my apartment.
This is where I live as well, so I thought I might jazz it up a bit.
That looks great. Sorry, I ruined the surprise.
No, that's okay. It's good when people know what's actually happening.
Yeah, for sure. I like to have the raw content, nothing filtered, nothing. I mean, I do a small amount of editing, but nothing special really. I just if we have a bathroom break or the beginning or the end, that's what I cut out. Or if there's something that we say that you don't want me to talk about, or sometimes I've had people say the wrong sponsor's name. They're like, "Can you cut that, please?" Like that was last year's. That's not this year's. I forgot. That happens sometimes. So,
I think I just tried to put it back on, but it completely blacked us out. So you might be just getting a bit of green now.
No worries.
No, that's okay.
So
I noticed I did do a little bit of research on what you do as well, and I noticed that you run a store for parts.
Yes, I do. I sell parts online. I like to be doing more of that. Everyone wants more sales, right? But for me, it's super time consuming. I mean, it's a full-time job on the side. So I'm an authorized dealer of, I think it's 35 brands from 9 different vendors, from mostly. Modified sport bike parts, a bit of car parts, some motocross. Trying to stay in the motorsports arena for that.
Yeah, really.
I just bought a new shirt. The first day wearing it, my checker flag shirt.
Yeah, cool.
So I love racing. I'm all about racing. I've worked for 5 companies as a coach for sport bikes on the track, getting your license on the street in Michigan, and also sports cars, exotics on the track as well. So I just love the sport. I've worked as a race marshal at the side of the track, waving the flags for like almost 20 companies, 19 I think it is right now. I'm trying to get the next one so I can say 20 for like Formula
And you
One.
just got your pro license recently?
8 years ago, actually, I got my pro license. So
What did you get recently? Because I saw you posted something about that.
So recently, 6 months ago, I started working as a car racing coach. So maybe that's the most recent thing that's happened. But yeah, I've had my pro license, or I got it 8 years ago, I should say. But you know, it's so expensive to compete that I haven't been able to really use it the way I want to. So my goal right now is to really focus on gaining the right sponsorship to be able to do it, because that's my biggest problem. Like, I've set lap records, won championships. The hardest part is just finding the money to do it for most people.
Absolutely.
So I've been talking to a couple different sponsorship coaches and reading a couple books on, you know, how to market yourself better. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, is to help get your name out there. You know, somebody told me a long time ago, you want to get money for sponsorships, get in front of a camera and start talking and put it out there for the whole world to see. So it's not perfect. I'm not, you know, polished, or I'm just talking, no notes, no bullet points. We're just having a conversation. So
I really do enjoy that. I think that's a good way to do it, and it stops it being too intimidating for the people that you have on here, I think.
Sure. Yeah, it's not an interview. You know, we're not going to ask you all these difficult, hard questions unless you want me to.
You can if you want. I'll see how I can do.
So yeah, I got the store that's been going for, since probably 2012, maybe 10 years now. The biggest thing I sell racing exhaust for Spark exhaust. There's M4 performance exhaust. I do Carvin car exhaust and truck exhaust. There's also Akrapovic, that's a big famous one, Akrapovic. They do cars and bikes. I have the motorcycle segment. Cars are a different company. So
yeah, so I actually run a Akrapovic on my KTM.
Nice. How do you like it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Well, like one of the best companies in the industry, really. It's like top of the line. I'm so honored to even have it in my catalog. It's like, I feel honored, you know?
That's a pretty big brand to be representing. It's really cool.
Absolutely. I wish I would sell more of it. You know, we're kind of restricted sometimes on where we can sell it. So we're not really supposed to sell it on eBay and Amazon, which that's where all the customers are. So it's only on my website or through me directly. So you can always contact me, EricSwahnRacing.com, or the store is shopesr.com. So I'm just trying to put it all out there so I can fund racing. That's the whole point of doing this store.
Yeah, I think Jet's dad does a lot of that.
Yeah.
Very good. So what are you guys doing for rehab, recovery, training, that kind of thing for the MotoStrengthCoach?
So currently, in regards to what Jet's doing, he's in his acute phase of recovery. So there's not a lot we can do with his knee specifically. But what we try to work on is the muscles and joints around that to try and strengthen and develop them prior to him loading the leg again. And that's all off the back of what physio has suggested. So the specialists, I'm just here at the moment to make sure it all goes smoothly and get on his back and make sure he does it every day. Which he does.
So I would say you're probably not a licensed doctor, but you're probably like sports medicine certified or something like that.
What's that, sorry?
Are you like sports medicine certified, or how did you get your credentials to help other people?
Awesome. So do you want sort of the longer backstory?
You got the whole floor. The floor is yours. Talk as long as you want.
Excellent. Sweet. So my career started in infantry. So I was you know what infantry is. This, America has quite a good culture for
Like
military
army?
over there. Yeah, so army infantry. And I did that for quite a while throughout my career. I had sort of a special interest in the physical capacity of soldiers. And they have what we call over here a combat fitness leader. So I started there at about 18. And throughout my deployments, I basically assisted in the development of physical strength for soldiers and also acclimatization. So if you can imagine going from one country to another with things like temperature and altitude, that was my specific role there. And the beauty of the combat fitness leader is that you can multitask. So you are a soldier and you're also a physical capacity instructor or a fitness instructor for what most people would know. I think your staff sergeants take that role. For us, there's a course that you can do, and it's about 6 weeks, and it gives you the capacity to sort of do that. From there, I came back and I continued that role for another sort of 5 to 6 years, and I wanted to specialize. So what we have is called a physical training instructor. And again, it fills that role as staff sergeant, but with education, I suppose, and education that aligns with the fitness industry in Australia. So that was very helpful. I continued on with that. And then I went to what would be our recruit training establishment. And very fortunately for me, what was occurring at that time was we were developing a strength and conditioning continuum for recruits. And the idea behind that was to prehab them so there wasn't a huge medical cost at the end of career for soldiers. So, which makes sense. And it happens for football teams, it happens for races and all that kind of thing, but we wanted to develop it for recruits. So I got a good 3 years of intensive experience, just like consistently taking hundreds of recruits through strength and conditioning, and I absolutely loved it and I learned a lot. But then I had a daughter, and I came out and I decided that I wanted to hang around her more. And my skill was in strength conditioning. My interest was in motorcycles, and you can sort of see where I was going with that.
Match them two together, you got a good baby there.
Yeah, so I mean, strength conditioning for motocross races and enduro races and rally guys and GP guys does exist. That's a thing. So I do take people who race, but my special interest is adventure riders.
Okay.
Because it's a new, well, not new, but it's an up and coming segment, and people are starting to race those bikes, which is kind of crazy because they're like 220 to 40 kilos plus, but they are doing it. And what we did notice is almost immediately as soon as I started this business, I had a couple of well-known clients who were going from motocross to enduro, but they were being asked by their sponsors to race these adventure bikes because they want to be perceived as a very capable bike. So they get these really good riders and do that. So they were reaching out to me to assist with that.
And you're talking like the BMW GS models, that kind of thing?
GSs, 1290s. What you tend to see on the track at the moment is the Yamaha T7s and the KTM 890s, and sometimes 690s as well. And they would be sort of considered like a heavy enduro.
Okay, yeah, and those are big bikes sometimes. Well over 1,000 cc's.
Well, sorry. They're sort of the mid-range capacity ones. So your T7 would be a 700 cc, and your 890 would be your 900 cc equivalent. I ride a 1200 cc, so yeah, that's about 240 kilos.
I have never seen adventure racing yet. That's a new thing I got to look up.
So that does exist, but what they tend to be doing is Red Bull Romaniacs last year, they had a T7 in there, and I think they had the KTM as well.
Yeah, there's
a few races where they're just popping them in, and it's quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think there's one guy that started on I think it might have been the T7, and now there's a few of them in there.
It's sort of becoming more popular. I almost liken it to the B-class rally of the 80s.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep trying to push it until it doesn't work anymore.
You know, I would love to see like an adventure bike on a flat track oval course. Or I would assume that they could race like probably cross country. I don't think they'd handle motocross jumps too well, but you never
I'm
know.
gonna have to send you a video by Chris Birch, and he he does a motocross track on the 890. It's incredible.
On
Yeah.
slicks or knobbies?
Oh, he would be using correct tires, and I would say KTM like to put it out, like straight off the floor. So there's good potential that he got it straight off the floor and started racing it.
Or even like Supermoto, you know, we use slicks out there for, in the motocross too. So it can be done, but it's a little sketchy.
And I suppose it's the skill as well of the rider, which tends to come down to.
Yeah, you just gotta be super smooth with the throttle.
Over a long period.
Gotta be smooth with that throttle, and just your body position has to be on point. It feels like you're gonna crash like every 4 seconds. So yeah, man. So sounds like you got a lot of history and skill and knowledge built up. So now you're training riders and racers, and how's that been?
It's been really amazing, and it's been an honor to be able to train these guys, especially when I've been reasonably new as far as my business goes. Like, I have the experience, but the business I've created has only been sort of 16 months old.
Okay.
So like I said, I'm quite honored and blessed to have these guys reach out to me and allow me to train them. I think that's amazing. I've learned heaps. I've learned an incredible amount from Jet, and I've learned a lot from Chris and all my other riders that I've been training. And what I have noticed is, specifically with these guys, is they tend not to be in a gym environment. So it tends to be a lot more difficult to write programming for them that requires equipment. So I have to use a lot more initiative to get them going. And I think last year I was using things like jerrys and a pulley system and ropes just to show people like what they can do outside of a gym environment or out on the track.
Are you saying that they might not have access to a gym or a membership, or that they just prefer to train in other ways?
Do you want to answer that?
So it could be like, say if I was going to go to America and and there wasn't a gym available where I was, I might be able to I'll pull up his program, and there'll be something like do a deadlift with a big rock or something like that.
Yeah, that's all you really need. I mean, you don't need huge equipment or expensive fancy machines. I have access to
what those machines are achieving really is a type of resistance.
Yeah,
and you can achieve that with, like you said, a rock or a jerry or a band or a TRX is a really popular way to do it. And I've really enjoyed that aspect of it, because I think deep down I'm a bit of a problem solver, so I really enjoy doing that.
Now, are you a big guy on like getting 10,000 steps a day, or what's your philosophy on the whole walk step count every day? Does that matter? Is it a basic level of fitness?
That would be very dependent on the client that I'm training. So if I'm training someone like Jet, a 10,000 step a day limit probably wouldn't have much benefit for him. To just go back a little bit, my opinion on the 10,000 step a day limit is that it's just a really good way to observe what you're doing each day. It's not a super effective training metric. That's what I'm looking for. So it's good to look at, but as far as a training metric goes, it's not super helpful. What I would be looking at more with, say, people like Jet is heart rates, VO2 max, strength in their lifts, and ability to display strength through range under fatigue. But that would be Jet's level. So if I had someone come in and they were just starting racing, they might have put on weight over 5 to 10 years, and they might want to reduce that weight, but they haven't got a very good place to start from. Yes, the step count might come in as a useful tool. But I suppose you can look at it like with the step count option, you can look at it as if there's a whole toolbox of things that I might use, and I'll find the appropriate things for the the client that I have.
Sure. So I took a little bit of time off of racing, and I did the whole start small and build your way up. And so I started doing. I'm actually on a streak right now. It's the best streak I've ever had for the last at least 5 years since I've been counting at my new watch, Garmin.
Yeah.
So I'm on a 22. Today will be 23-day streak of getting 10,000 steps a day. I've never tried to do that for any extended period of time. And normally, like I grew up in Michigan. I just moved out to Las Vegas, totally different climate. So every time you go outside, it's 30, 40 degrees hotter than it was in Michigan, Fahrenheit. So, it's like every time you go outside, you're going into a sauna. So it's a little harder. Like I just went for an hour walk at 3 miles or so, and you're sweating just walking. There's nobody else at the park because it's 110 degrees out. It's 45 Celsius, so it's a different animal. So now when I go for a bike ride, it's like I am dying at 30 minutes because it's so hot out. So it's just something that your body kind of has to get adapted to. And I'm adding in bike rides 1, 2, 3, 4 a week, ramping up slowly so I don't overtax myself. I don't know if you're big followers or fans of the app Strava. I've been using that for over a decade now for all my GPS tracking for walks and hikes and bike riding and running and kayaking, like whatever, e-bike rides. I think it's great to see your history for 10 years of all your fitness. I wish I did it as a child because I went on so many bike rides around the neighborhoods. I would have loved to see my routes and where I went and all the history of my bike rides. I think I'm a data guy, I'm a data nerd like that. I'd like to see the numbers, what's my heart rate, what's the temperature outside, how much elevation did I get? I think those are really cool tools to kind of track yourself and see what you're doing year to year. Most years I get at least 1,000 miles of cycling in a year. Right now I'm like less than 100. So I kind of dropped the ball on that one, but getting back into it, I think it's really cool. Yeah. I think it's cool to explore a new area. And you'll never see these things if you take a car drive. You're going too fast to see these areas. So it's a way to explore a new city. So you said you
that was a lot of information. I'm just trying to. I was thinking about things as you said that were quite important. Data and metrics. That's what we sort of went to. So what I might do after this is I have your email now, and I'll send you my app just so you can have a look at it. And it links to things like Strava and Garmin. I don't know what the other one is, Waze, and it tracks everything that those track, but it will also take metrics like body weight, muscle measurements, basically every metric that you can think of with regards to strength conditioning or fitness. You can track your meals, all that kind of stuff. So if you like data like that, it's a particularly good way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to see the numbers after a long period of time. It doesn't mean anything if you look at the one number today, but over a 6-month period, it starts to matter.
A metric that a lot of people I've noticed misjudge is their nutrition. So once they get on to the app that I use, the MotoStrengthCoach app, and I don't give out nutritional plans to people, but I usually just get them to have a look at the macros that they're eating through the day, so they get a good idea of what they're achieving or how much they're getting into their bodies through the day. And most people will sit underneath, especially when we're talking about athletes, and Jet needs to eat to enhance his training. And what we did notice was that potentially he wasn't eating quite enough.
Yeah.
Not enough calories or specific groups of foods, proteins, carbs, fruits, or vegetables, anything like that?
Mostly all of it.
All of it, yeah.
Amazingly, yeah. So it was all in the right. What's the word?
What?
It was all split up the right way, but it was just more that we needed.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, if you're working out, if you're exercising, you have to fuel your body. Otherwise, it's going to take it from somewhere else. And sometimes that's a good thing if you're trying to lose weight. But, if you're already a professional athlete, typically you're not 15, 30 pounds overweight,
Yeah.
And we do have to be quite aware of Jet's weight at his level, because we don't really want to go over, what was it, 72
Yeah.
kilos. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so I race a KDM 250F at the moment, and I would typically want to be around that 70 kilos because I don't know what that is in like pounds but
Yeah, 100 pound, isn't it? 110 pounds.
You said 72?
yeah, so yeah, around that 70 kilos. So if I go over that, I might
About
might not get
158.
yeah, might not get as good of a start because I'm that bit heavier than my competition, and that could like it might not matter around the track, but yeah, it might give me that advantage at the start, so I can be up there and fight for them wins.
Yeah, every ounce, every kilo counts, right? So it's
Yeah.
really important. And I've noticed I was always a light guy at my lowest possible race weight. I was like 148, 146, but that's pushing it for me. That's really kind of undernourished, I think. And so,
Yeah.
you know, below that 70 kilo rate it's hard to achieve. That's hard to stay at when you're like 6 feet tall, right? And you're trying to have muscle mass too. But yeah, it really helps for the whole shots, the whole down in turn one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is my dog, Ollie.
Oh, very good. Hey, Ollie, you can probably hear my cat meowing in the background.
He's decided that he wants to be right in the middle of us.
No worries. I invite it. I enjoy that. So you guys are animal lovers, sounds like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What kind of dog?
Ollie goes everywhere. So Ollie usually jumps on the back of my bike as well.
Nice.
Yeah, he's really good.
Resistance while you're riding.
Yeah, well, he's amazing actually. He kind of just he balances really well because he's got cattle dog in him, and he'll just stay there. And then we get out bush, so he'll ride on the road, get out bush, jump off. I'll take him for a walk while he runs along, and then he'll jump back on and we'll head home.
Nice. I would like to get a leash for my cat, but they don't really like to go the way that you're going. They'll just
No.
in past cats I've had, I bought them a leash and they would always get right out of it in 30 seconds. It's like that's amazing. So I went to the market and I got this guy was selling a harness for a bobcat. And he's like, your cat will never get out of this. He's going to be stuck in that as long as you keep him in it. And I mean, it took him a little longer, but right out of it. It's like, that's never going to work. But yeah, I love animals. I love dogs. I've never had one. I just travel too much I have to pay someone to watch my dog most of the time, I think.
That would be frustrating. And this is Ollie was the same as my daughter, sort of. So as soon as in the military, it's obviously quite difficult to have an animal. I chose not to up until the point where I left, and then I'm really glad that I did it after. We've got a cat as well, so yeah, we like both.
Yeah, it was. We had mowers in our apartment complex mowing the lawn today, and my cat was scared as heck and hiding under the bed. I got her out of the bed, and then she went in the living room, and I couldn't find her for 20 minutes. And I live in a small apartment. I'm like, I have no idea where this animal just went. Looking under the couch.
So
it's like, where did you go? I found a new hiding spot that she was using.
Jet has some great dogs. He's got a Doberman and a Dachshund, and they look exactly the same.
Oh yeah,
Dachshund, sorry.
Yeah, like a sausage dog.
Oh yeah, the like a wiener dog kind of thing.
Yeah,
But they're both the Doberman color.
Yeah, okay. They're black and tan. So sure. The Doberman just looks like a big sausage dog.
That's fun. Are they well trained?
No. No, I probably wouldn't say they are.
Just medium.
Yeah.
Very good.
But, my Doberman doesn't listen very well.
Yeah, that's a common thing. You got to be really like Cesar Milan. You know that guy? He was a dog whisperer. You got to be super on him with everything, right?
Yeah.
Ollie's pretty good. And I never put it down to training him particularly well, but it's just because he's always around me.
Sure. So I'm gonna walk over real quick and let my cat out so she stops meowing. In the meantime, I would be 3 feet away. If you could start talking about your history being at the track and what how you got to this point, I'll be back in 3 seconds.
Cool. Yep. So
talk to me about it.
Yeah. Well, can you start off with a question? Like, how do I?
Yeah, okay, sweet. So, I guess where did you start? Like, what was your first bike?
Well, my first bike was a KDM 50. I've always been on KDMs, so yeah, started. Well, I actually started on like a little quad bike, but mum and dad took it off me because I started standing up on the seat and going way too fast on it. So they bought me a KDM 50, and I think I used the training wheels for like 30 seconds and then had to take them off. And yeah, I've been, I would say I've always been a little bit pretty naturally talented on the bike, but I have had a lot of coaches and that over the years. And yeah, so I've come up through the ranks on like through the little bikes, and now this is my first year as a senior. And yeah, so I have won a few national titles and state titles, and I've rode for the KDM Factory Junior team and over here in Australia. And yeah, it's been I've had a great junior career up to this point, and I want to transfer that over into the pro ranks.
So
But
junior, is that more like an amateur class, but
yeah,
but like amateur expert?
yeah. So the juniors is like your amateurs over there.
Okay, very good.
So like yeah,
And you said you were with a factory team. That sounds impressive. What's it like to be with the factory team?
yeah, it's pretty good. At the junior national titles, yeah, yeah, under the truck, and it's a really cool experience. And yeah, you get your bikes, your gear, and everything given to you free, which is amazing, and it helps a lot with the cost of everything.
Oh, big time. And you showing up with semi trucks and a plane ticket to each event?
Uh no,
You could almost call your dad's truck a semi truck.
yeah, but Dad's
Got a
got
big dog.
a 3500 Dodge Ram,
Okay.
so we go to most of the races in that, and we have a Sprinter van as well. So yeah, so at the junior stuff, there's a semi truck, but we drive to most of them.
Okay. What's typical drive time to each of the tracks? Is it far distances?
There's some around. So there's one at Coolum, which is about an hour away. But most of the races are like some might be down to Melbourne, which is like that's like a 20-hour drive for us.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, like they're spread out all over Australia, really. But
that's
there
cool.
is a few private tracks and race tracks around us that are within an hour.
Awesome. Very good. And so you see yourself going down this path to professional. Do you want to stick with motocross or go to? Do they have an indoor supercross in Australia?
They do have a Supercross over here, but it's not a very big event. So I'm pretty sure there's only 3 rounds this year. My goal is to be a world champion. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. Do you want to stay in Australia or travel and do different countries or continents or different series or just stay in one series?
My goal is to get to America. Whether that's going through Europe first or yeah, yeah. The goal is America to do what like
To progress, you really have to move out of Australia. Hey?
yeah. Australia is it's good, but they spread everything out too far. So the race there's a 7 week break in between our races right now for no reason.
Hmm.
So yeah, where America it's a race every weekend. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a lot of events.
yeah,
So you'd say that the pinnacle of motocross racing is in the U.S.?
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay.
US or Europe.
Or Europe. Yeah, Europe's got a high talent rate too. You know, got mostly
Yeah,
I would say more road racers in Europe than motocross, but that's just my
yeah,
opinion. I come from the road racing scene. I know a lot less about the dirt, so I might be wrong about that.
yeah. It's still yeah, it's highly competitive over there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say America's the ultimate goal.
And
I
do
think
you feel like you're on the ideal bike that you'd like to be on? Is there another manufacturer you like to be riding with, or is this kind of where you want to be?
No, I love my KTM. It's great. I have had a few bike issues this year, but it is a new model. There's always going to be a few things that are going to happen. But but yeah, I love the KTM. I've never ridden another brand, so I'm I'm used to them. I know what they're like, and yeah, I don't want to change anytime soon.
And do you plan on moving up to the 450 class or stay in the 250s for a little while until you get to pro and then prove yourself in 250 and then move up probably?
Yeah, so I want to win like a championship in the 250 class, and yeah, yeah, prove myself in that, and then yeah, I'll see where I go from there.
Sure. So you've worked with a lot of coaches, so and you're at a high level now. What would you say is kind of holding you back from going faster? Is there something about your riding or your training or any specific aspect that you're trying to focus on right now?
Well, right now for strength and conditioning, which Ben is helping with a lot. I started with him like late last year, would you say?
yeah. So about September last year.
Yeah. And the progression I've seen in myself is like just amazing, and I've got like 5 seconds quicker on the track, which is amazing.
That's significant.
To
Yeah.
give Jed some credit though as well, and going back to what he said before about having natural talent, he's particularly good at listening.
That's a
He's
big part of it.
yeah, he's very, very coachable. And you would know that being a coach. Like if you think of the perfect person you coach, Jet's almost it. He may get something wrong once, but you tell him again and he's doing it. So like, yes, I'm giving him the information, but he's applying it.
Yeah. Yeah. The hardest person to coach is somebody who thinks they know everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're just not going to listen. They're going to be just in one ear. I heard you, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, being coachable is huge. I'm coaching almost every day in the cars, and the best person that I like to coach is honestly a young woman, because typically they haven't, and like the older men. I'm what you call generalizing a lot right now, but typically
I think you're right there.
older
Obviously,
men, they'd be
there's
like, I've been driving for 30 years. I don't need to have this 30-year-old tell me how to drive. I know how to drive. And then I'm like, off the brakes, off the brakes, off the brakes, off the brakes. Why are you holding on the brakes for 20 seconds in the middle of the corner? That's not how you drive. But the women, they're like, I don't know what to do. Please tell me, I'll do it. And they go ahead and apply it. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, you're going
I think
faster
that's
than the older
honestly
men.
you need to accept that you're coaching them.
Right. Yeah. So it's being
But
coachable
yeah,
is a
like I
huge
said,
thing.
Jed doesn't seem to have that issue. And from what I hear from the rest of his team, they all they think the same thing. So that's really cool.
Well, I think the people who really want to achieve great results know that they're not the best yet, right? But they want to get there. So it's like, please just give me all the information you have and I'll do it. Like, but then you get the people who get egotistical, right? They get too much in their head, and then it's hard for them to accept new information. I remember when I was like going up through the ranks and learning, like we have something called MSF, Motorcycle Safety Foundation, over here to get your license to drive on the street, ride a bike, and what they teach you in day one of your MSF class might not apply when you're now an expert or professional racer, right? So I'm like, well, they lied to me. Well, no, they didn't. They were teaching you step one out of 1,000 that your techniques are going to have to change throughout this, and what you learned to day one is not. You don't want to be teaching MotoGP techniques to a first-time rider who just learned what a clutch is, right? They're going to fall off. It's not going to work. So
they're teaching relevant level riding.
yeah, you have to evolve your techniques and your ideas behind what you're doing out there as you go faster.
Yeah, I see it as even the top pros in motocross can even get better. Like you can always get better.
Yep.
It's
And
just
there's always something someone can teach you. And I mean, at the moment, we've worked out a system where Jet's actually teaching me motocross.
yeah, there you go.
So, and I absolutely believe that I can learn from him every day I go there. I don't think that he knows less than me because he's younger or anything like that. I just take what he says and I apply it, and we're getting somewhere. That's for sure.
Good. So do you ride as well, or are you an avid fan?
Are you talking about me or Jet? Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
Me. Okay. Yeah. I ride. I don't race. I ride.
Okay. Not yet, anyways.
Yeah. What's that?
Not yet, anyway. You don't race yet.
No, I don't race. Yeah. My intent is to race. But the strength and conditioning stuff comes first, because that is what I don't like the word. It's my passion, but I absolutely froth on it. I love it. It really is my the thing that I want to be doing till I'm like 80 or 90.
Awesome. So do you coach multiple, I know you said you do some adventure stuff, but multiple disciplines? Do you do road racing, cars, or like what's your whole repertoire of people who you coach?
So it's all bikes. I have some guys just finished the prologue in Red Bull Romaniacs at the moment. So they're over in Romania. So that's hard enduro. Then we've got Jet, obviously his motocross stuff. And then I've trained a couple of people, which I no longer train, who are out on sort of like a world tour, and they wanted to get stronger pre-tour. I had a similar thing where a guy was going on, what do they call it? Where they go around and do charity work around the world. So he was doing that in a sidecar.
Okay.
And he was a little bit older, so he was around 60, 65, and he obviously just wanted to be prepared for that kind of trip. So, and then there's been all different disciplines in between that, but it's always motorbikes and performance-oriented motorcyclists.
I gotcha. And it's a fairly dangerous profession. Maybe not what you're doing as the coach, but to coach somebody doing a dangerous sport. Are you at all in the psychological aspect of coaching people, like mentally getting through some injuries or like fears that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really interesting point to talk on, because it's come up quite a lot, because as you can imagine, pre-MotoStrengthCoach, injuries would have been quite prevalent in the infantry setting. However, what I'm very exposed to now is the mental load that it has on not only Jet, but the whole team, being his family. And what I'm aware of is that my role as I go there is to be sort of the positive influence, because it can be really, really difficult for them. And you can observe that when you had your knee. Hey, it was quite a stressful time.
Yeah.
And yes, I think a lot of the conversation around that time was around mental resilience and how we get through it, and taking the next step and finding things to do to keep you mentally occupied, but also Dad as well, because he does a lot of the managing and stuff, and that was quite stressful. So just having a few chats about that, and that's very much a part of what I do. It sort of sits within, I guess, 3 tenets almost. So it's like your mental well-being, your physical well-being, and sorry, I've lost the last one. Yeah.
Nutrition, maybe.
What's that?
Nutrition, maybe.
Yeah. So mental, physical, and nutrition. Yes. So all those things come together to assist with strength conditioning. It doesn't really. They're more on a spectrum than anything else. They're not separate. I don't see them as separate. What else do we do? Actually, you could talk about a bit more that we do specifically for you for mental resilience stuff. So I'll let you talk about that.
So well, he'll wake me up at like 3 in the morning, and I have a big backpack on, like the military backpacks with a weight in it, and like our most recent one, I had to carry a wheel to like a what would you call it? Like,
so it was like a rear wheel from the bike.
Yeah.
And then
I had to carry it all the way down the street, and when the cars came past, like hide in the bush, like it was like a military thing. It's super cool, but it's also really tough at the same time. And it's like
and they got a freezing cold pool as well, so we were jumping in and out of that.
Yeah.
Ice
So
baths,
it's like, what was that? Sorry.
Is it ice baths? Those cool cold pools?
Yeah. And so it's it's really cool, but it's like super hard at the same time. So the first like 20 minutes, it's not too bad, and then you keep going, and it is really tough, like mentally. Maybe sometimes not physically, but mentally it does get really tough. And that it's like exercising your brain how to get through that.
Being able to push to the limit without hurting yourself, right? Because I would assume, and
Yeah.
I've experienced many times, I wouldn't say many times, but a few times, overtraining injuries where I just want to go and go and go and get up to 2,000 miles on a bike, and then you end up hurting your leg, and then you want to go
Yeah.
farther, and you're injured, and you still go out, and then you get hurt more, right? So it's about
Yeah, yeah.
also when you are injured, like you said, it's kind of task switching. You got to find something else to occupy your mind. That's go hard into reading books. Let's learn about suspension electronics or how internal engine components. Something in the same industry, but something you can take a break from exercising and do something still in your same sport, but learning a different thing.
This is where the coaching concept came in as well, a little bit. So we had this issue, and we sort of decided that coaching me might be a good way to go, because as far as I'm concerned, when you educate someone, you're relearning the basics again, and it really solidifies those in your head. So yeah, it keeps him in the same loop, or it keeps him in the MX mindset, but he gets to teach it, which is awesome, I think.
I think it's great. I thought I knew what I was doing until I started being a coach. And then you notice your own bad habits that you're telling someone else not to do. It's like, maybe I think I do that too. Right. So
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do that with Jed as well. I'll be like, do this, do this, do this. I'll be like, wait a second. Am I doing that right?
Yeah.
I'm like, Jed,
yeah,
can you just watch me do it? And he'll be like, I don't think that's quite right. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Because you do need someone to watch you sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really interesting like that.
yeah. And I think a lot of people are really fast as racers, but are terrible coaches. Not people that I
Yeah.
work with in particular, but in
No.
general, I think there's a lot of professional racers who are really fast, but don't know how to articulate what they're doing. Don't know how to regurgitate that information. They just know how to do it, but they don't know how to talk about it.
And it's a skill.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's sort of something that I'd like to pass on to Jet while we're going through this process.
Definitely. So, is there anything on your mind you wanted to talk about specifically?
What do we so yeah, I think I sent you a question that I'm particularly interested in at the moment, training Jet, and it's called it's an acronym called LTAD, or it's long-term athlete development. And from what I've recognized recently in Australia, I'm not sure what it's like over in America. There's not a lot of education outside of the strength conditioning community as to what that is. And the concept is that this is similar to a gymnast or similar to a racer when they get on a go-kart. If they're looking at being professional, we start young, and there's a progressive system when we start young as well. It's not like start young, chuck on big bumper weights or kettlebells and do that. It's start young and you go through the stages of being an athlete, and that might, depending on how young they are, be simple things like hopping, skipping, jumping, human movement, bear crawls, all that kind of thing. And then they move to sort of a stage 2 athlete where they might use soft resistance like sandbags, bands, that kind of stuff, to a stage 3 athlete where we'll start to use hard implements like barbells, dumbbells, and heavier resistance as they develop their technique and strength. Those stages can go over a decade, or they can go over, say, if I got Jet September last year, we might do a couple of months of that, because he's been developing that through his life anyway while he's been riding motocross. The big thing to understand about long-term athlete development, though, especially for someone you want to develop professionally as they get older, is, like I mentioned before, starting young is best. What we tend to see is people starting at your age.
Yeah.
Because they kind of go, oh, I'm ready to be a professional and I'm 16 and it's time to start now, which is absolutely fine. And it is a really good time to start. But getting in there earlier would be beneficial, if you sort of understand where I'm going with that. Especially when we have a schooling system potentially similar to yours. I'm not sure, where we're veering away from the physical aspect. So sports isn't as common now in school, or physical activity isn't as common. So we need to buffer that. And my opinion is, and it's not tested by data, is that if we achieved that and the education behind that for parents early on, we might see less injuries 16, 17, 18, 19, because you have a body that's capable of doing the very physical sport that is motocross or enduro or whatever comes up with two wheels, basically.
Yeah, I think it's really hard I think the education system's broken. I think if you really want that right now, don't look to your schooling system. I don't know how it is in Australia, but it's not good in the US. We learn things that we never need to use again most of the time, and just rehearsing facts from books from a war that when it happened and who is it from and how does it help us, But so I'm a big proponent of, if you really want something to be better for your own family, you have to go out there and do it. You can't expect the regular public education to sustain that or to provide that need for you. So that's why we need people like you to help fill in those gaps. I think that's a really good thing for the sport. I remember coming from road racing, thinking of Colin Edwards, and he used to be just drinking beer and having fun with his friends and partying out at the bonfire at night instead of training all the time. And look, he got on the MotoGP world stage. And how different it is nowadays as far as training goes. Like now we have 10 to 20 riders within a second in qualifying. And before there was it's not like that anymore. Now it's cutthroat. Now you mess up one tiny braking zone or a corner exit and you didn't qualify to the next session.
Or if you start to fatigue toward the end of the day and your times aren't as good as they could have been, something that could have mitigated that was your conditioning.
Just got to be perfect out there, and having great stamina and fitness is one way to have less risk is the word, maybe, or less
it is risk mitigation. That's the catchword for that as well, I suppose. And another thing we've noticed, especially with motorcycle racing, which you probably have noticed throughout your career, is as opposed to a football team or a basketball team, and tell me if you can think of anyone else like this, but when you're injured, you don't have anyone to back you up.
Unless you have like a stand-in rider, which is rare, right? It's very rare to have a secondary rider on a amateur team.
Yeah, so they bear the whole load of that, which is both mentally difficult and physically.
Definitely. Yeah, maybe a pop singer or but that's less physically demanding, maybe more vocally demanding, just different.
Oh, I don't know. I've seen them working pretty hard for a couple of hours up on stage. Actually, that brings me to a point that I wanted to ask you. You brought out an album.
Yeah, I did.
I was quite interested in that. How did that go?
So it wasn't like a really public release. I mean, to put it out on YouTube, Spotify, but I didn't release an album. It was just like I just posted it one day. So it was something that I love music. I'm really into music. I've played for pretty much my whole life, different instruments. And in college, I was playing the guitar every single day and got really good at it. And was still taking lessons, trying to get better. And thought I wanted to go into music, editing, production, recording, producing, that kind of thing. Ended up not doing it as a career, just it helped me do this, helped me edit the podcast, and helped me down the line with other things. But I wrote and recorded maybe 15, 20 songs, and I felt comfortable enough posting 10 of them. And so,
I was really impressed when you posted those out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think vocal singing is a very perishable skill. It's something that can get better. If you can talk, you can sing, but how well, right? So it's something that has to be practiced all the time. Otherwise, you lose it real quick. And I do have quite a bit of allergies, just seasonal stuff, and my sinuses are always terrible. So that it was always a really hard thing for me to always practice singing and not have sinus issues. So that's one of the reasons my voice isn't perfect on there. That's the biggest thing. I think the guitar is great. I think the tracking of the beats and the drums are pretty good. I think the mix is good audio wise. It's not too loud or too low or too high. I
Did
think
you mix all that yourself or produce it yourself?
it's all me, 100%.
Yeah, wow.
Me,
Yeah,
and I had a couple other guest singers and performers on there. Like I had my roommate at the time, Kenny, he was into rapping, just for
yeah.
fun, and he does his own recording and editing. And I don't think he's ever released anything just for himself. Um, but he's on one of the tracks, one or two of them. I took a song and songwriting course in college. That's what I thought I wanted to go into. And up until that point, I'd always had dozens of pages, if not hundreds, of lyrics written and song ideas and chords, but like half finished songs. Never finished a full song. And then it came to this class, and I was like, we have to produce a song every week. Like, oh, well, that's scary. Like, I want to learn how to do it. Yeah, so it's like, well, let's just do it. You got to rip off the Band-Aid. It's due on Friday, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's like start before you're ready. Just you need to have a finished product before you can make anything better, right? So if it's never finished, how can you improve it? You just have to say, okay, it's done, and it's not perfect, but let's record it, and then maybe next week let's re-record it with these changes, or with the changes you can make on the computer. You can do so much with a computer now. You don't even need to know how to learn how to play an instrument. You can just do everything online if you're savvy enough.
Yeah, I just downloaded a program called Cakewalk.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what that is, but I think it's a BandLabs program.
And what does it do?
So it essentially is like, do you use Apple?
Yeah. Oh, I had Apple in the past. I have a PC.
Yeah, so it's like their GarageBand.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So I sort of started doing that. I muck around on guitar a little bit, but I'm nowhere near as good as what you mentioned playing through college. But yeah.
Yeah, so I just enjoyed it, and it was cool. It was a cool thing for me. I never expect to make any money off of it, but I could still pick up a guitar and play most songs that you hear on the radio within 5 minutes, type of thing. So
yeah, that's cool. So do you have the ear to listen to it?
Yeah, I have a really good ear
That's
to.
awesome, 'cause that's hard.
I was in band in middle school, high school, elementary school. I didn't do it in college, just did it on my own, but I was in concert band, marching band, and jazz band. Never really formed any bands with friends or anything like that, just played through school and on my own, taking lessons for years. But come from a sort of musical family. I think I skipped a generation. My parents didn't play anything. Just my brother and I, two siblings, and my brother went really far with music. He did something called DCI, which is Drum Corps International, which is pretty much the highest you can go for marching band. Now it's not a money making opportunity, but it's you get to travel the country. There's people from all over the world who do it. It's all in the U.S. But they travel the country. He did that for 5 years with two different corps, two different bands, I guess you call them, and it's amazing the level you can get at. And it's like if you go to I'm big into sports and hockey as well. So if you go to like a high school hockey game versus a professional hockey game, or the world stage, you see this massive improvement. So imagine like going to your local high school band and then going to a college band, then going to DCI. It's like the same, like, oh, wow. Running at full pace across the field, making all these different, shapes with their bodies. And then they're also playing phenomenally with no mistakes. It's like, that's amazing, really, to be able to do that. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think
they're almost I guess they're athletes, really. They're musical athletes.
It's a militarized style of being an athlete. They do breath work in the mornings. They do stretching. It's like they're out there on the field in 100-degree weather, 40 Celsius or whatever, all day for 8 hours practicing the entire summer, and then traveling in a tour bus, sleeping on the floor of gymnasiums with a group of 100 people. They become your friends and family after a long period of time that stay with you for life.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's really interesting.
It's most people never heard of DCI, but you can go to like your local. They tour all around, so you can go to like your local, high school or college, and they'll play, and you pay a small fee, $20, $50, whatever it is, and you can see all these cores compete. It's actually a competition. It's not just they play; they're competing against each other. And there's like world finals and all that. That's all on YouTube. You can watch it there.
Yeah, I might check it out after this. It's cool.
Pretty phenomenal. So yeah, I like music. Never was really gonna do it for a living, I don't think, but it's just fun to play, you know. And if you like it, that's all that matters. It's a good release. It's a good thing to just be creative with, and I think it makes you smarter. You know, using another whole half of your brain that you never used before. A lot of people say, "Well, I can play the radio. That's about it." But learning how to actually play something and have it sound good that's difficult. It's hours and hours of practice. And I think
even the music theory is like a whole nother language.
yeah, I took music theory for a while, and the like chord progression and why they use different notes, and like if you're a jazz musician, there are no wrong notes. Like you can play any note in the right order, or even in weird orders, and you can make it sound good, even if it's off key.
Yeah, wow.
You know,
how does it manage that? Do you know?
like you can use chromatic scales, or like every note is available, but sometimes
to make it sound right in sequence is quite difficult, especially
so you know, I said, you know, start before you're ready. I think people think that, oh, I can't play that. Well, you should sound bad when you start. You're not going to be great when you start, just like riding a motorcycle. Like people say, well, I'm not good enough. I'm like, well, do you know how to start it up? Do you normally stall your bike? Well, no, they don't stall it. You know, they can start it. It's fine. So, well, then go to the racetrack. Just try it out. You don't have to be a racer. Like, it's just practice time. It's a practice. It's a track day. It's not a race. There's no competition here. And, you know, just try it out. It might not be for everybody. I'm not saying everybody needs to, but if you're looking to go faster and be safer, there's no better way to do it than at the racetrack. You're not going to get arrested for speeding. You're not going to, if you do get injured, there's an ambulance or two of them running 30 seconds away from you. And the whole community wants to help you. You break your engine or some smaller part, there's usually 15 spares within 100 feet. You know, you just talk to people. It's like, I'm having a problem with my bike or this corner. Ask somebody else. I'm sure they'll try to help you. Even if it's a race event, people have broken parts at race events, and I was directly competing against them. I lent them my spare part, which it might sound stupid, but I want to beat you on the racetrack rather than in the pit lane. So it's a great community of people, and I think start before you're ready is a great way to think about it.
Yeah, you brought up two really good points there, which I wanted to talk on a bit. So that start before you're ready, I think that's very relative to business as well.
Yeah.
And you probably would know that it's kind of like, that is how I feel like most of the time while I'm running my business. And it's kind of like, it's not that I don't know what I'm doing, but I can generally work things out as I go. Whereas if I hadn't done that, I probably just would never have started. The next point that you brought up was the safety on the track. And I wanted to bring that up, but I wanted you to continue talking earlier when we talked about Jet doing sort of the resilience military style training. And you did bring up that there was a safety aspect to that and burning out. I think you talked about burning out. That very much is my role, is to ensure that there's no burnout on Jet's part so he can get to the race and be completely ready. And everything that we do should be in a safe environment. It can be perceived as dangerous by Jet, but the way I've set it up and planned it is so that he doesn't injure himself and he can get out on the track later. And I take a lot of pride in doing that. So yeah, I think that's an interesting part of what I do, and I think that can be missed when you're talking about I guess the difference between a personal trainer or a fitness instructor and a strength conditioning coach, where the idea is not to flog him and not to make him tired or not to get him more injured for the track, but to what was the wording I would have used? We're essentially training the systems in his body to make him more effective on the track. It's not to make him a better, more physically capable runner or a more physically capable push bike rider or anything like that. Everything we work on is to develop his ability as a racer.
Yeah,
safely.
and you might not be able to mitigate every single risk, but you can do your best to
No.
try, right?
Yeah, well, I have the experience to do that too, and that does come with experience, I think. Understanding all the things that could potentially go wrong, and sort of, I guess, doing your work health safety assessments against them, and deciding whether it's worth a very small risk or it's just not, and we can achieve it another way.
Yeah. Or like, you know, you can push hard and you can, you know, go to the limit of your abilities, but is that necessary the night before your race event? You know, there's a way to do it to taper off, maybe to be more physically fit at race day and not be just exhausted because you did 45 miles the night before.
I would say it's detrimental to do it before race day. So yeah, I suppose with coaching, I'm not like, so when you do coaching, do you coach daily or do you have like a long-term plan for clients?
It's usually by the day, so it depends on who shows up that day. So I'm not contracted with any specific one person, if that's what you're asking. It's for me, it's who comes into the business and who wants to drive or ride that day, and then we coach that person who's in front of us.
Yeah. So what I was sort of getting at there was, from a strength conditioning coach's point of view, it has to be looked at, I guess, from the athlete's sports perspective. So what they're trying to achieve in the long term, and then you develop the program from there. So, well, you would develop an overall program from there that's going to achieve their goal. And then obviously if things like what's happened with Jet happen, we can adjust. And adjusting is one of the key, I guess, abilities that we have as strength conditioning coaches, just to change up really quickly and decide what the next best option is.
Yeah. For me, it's I usually ask them while we're walking to the car. I'm like, okay, so what's your goal today? Slow, medium, fast, or just have fun? And most people, they've never been on the track. Most people, it's their first time ever in a Lamborghini or Ferrari, and so they're like, oh, I just want to have fun. I don't want to crash the car. I'm like, okay, then I know how to coach that person. Some people, we get Formula One race drivers and IMSA and Sportscar, real racing drivers of all different series, and they're like, I want to set a lap record today. I'm like, okay, that's a completely different coaching I'll give you then, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, some people are just really nervous and don't know what to do. And you find that you can see their bad habits after doing well over 1,000 people. You can see their bad habits right away. We're not even on the track yet. We're in the pit lane. I'm like, okay, that needs to be corrected. That's wrong. You know, we just went 10 feet. Oh, there's 3 things right there. You know?
And that's a really interesting point, actually, because the next question I was going to ask you is, I noticed in one of your podcasts, it might have been a few podcasts ago, but you were talking about simulators and how effective they are. And I wanted to see what your opinion is, if you've thought about it, on virtual reality and augmented reality.
I haven't used those
how
myself.
that might help us as a coach.
Yeah, I haven't used those myself, but I know I have some friends, coworkers who actually use them with the glasses for the VR setup, and they said it's so vividly accurate, it's freaky. Like they'll be sitting in the car, and you can look down and see your hands and see all the controls and the seat texture and everything like that. And for me, I think it would be helpful for everybody, not just for me, but I have a simulator set up, which is Fanatec DD1 wheelbase Formula One style wheel, the V3 inverted pedals, with the cheapest seat I could find on Amazon. Is a Conquer. Wouldn't recommend it. It fell apart. We had to fix it with wood. It works. You don't need anything fancy. The wheel and pedal setup is what I wanted to spend the money on. What I harness it to doesn't really matter. And then I just have my TV screen in my living room. So it would be ideal to have the VR so you could see more, 180 degrees around you. That's really helpful for seeing what's coming up on your sides. Otherwise, you just have the one screen and you can't see as much as the next guy who has a triple monitor setup. So the two screens basically kind of on an angle, 45 degree would be very helpful. So you could see more information. I think you don't have to have a high-end Fanatec. You can have a Logitech or one of the other brands would be fine too. There's a lot of them out there now, but I think it's so realistic in the force feedback that you get from the steering wheel. It's phenomenal. It's
We
it's
got to
right
go.
there.
I saw the course the other day. Hey,
Yeah. So I just bought a Logitech one for my PlayStation
Yeah,
while I'm injured, and I've got a few games like Assetto Corsa
that's what I use
and Gran,
mainly.
yep, Gran Turismo, and it's amazing, really. Like you said, the force feedback, and yeah, yeah, I don't even really know how to explain it.
but
Oh,
because
you
his
can
leg has
feel
to be
like,
straight, we've set him up in a camping chair. So you know the ones that go all the way back.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually quite a good setup.
Yeah,
So you got the formula style seating position.
Yeah,
yeah,
like right in the cockpit. Hey,
yeah,
So I would say that, like, imagine if you're in like an LMP2 car prototype, you have tons of power on in the car. The moment you get on the throttle, you're not going to be turning because the all the weight shifted to the rear. There's nothing on the front tires, so you might be adding all this steering angle, but the wheel's not the car's not turning because you're just accelerating so hard. You
yeah,
go over crests and you feel the car get light. The steering gets light. You go over the curbings and you feel the bumps in your hands. If you lock up the tires, you know right away. It's extremely sensitive. If you're hitting a wall, better watch out your hands because it's going to rip that wheel right out of your hands.
yeah,
You can set the on this one, and maybe a lot of different ones too. You can set the Newton meters of force that it gives you, and actually mine is set way too high, so it's a workout every time I'm on the simulator. Like I'm sweating. I should put my heart rate Strava.
yeah, I was going to say, have you checked your heart rate monitor while you do it?
It gets a little high. It's not so much from the physical workout of it. I mean, my shoulders or my pecs are a little sore, but it's more of the adrenaline from, oh, I almost hit that guy, or almost went off track, or almost spun the car. You know, it's more the mental aspect than it is the actual physical heart rate getting high from physical exertion. So I'd recommend it to anybody, except for my competitors. Don't do it. You shouldn't do it. But no, it's honestly it's great. You can. I would recommend getting iRacing, which I don't have right now, but all my friends, coworkers do. It's a little bit higher cost because you have to pay for each track, each car is a la carte. You buy whatever you want. So it's more expensive, and there's also like an annual fee for it. That's the only reason I don't have it right now. I'm focusing on other things and the money. But with iRacing, you can
That's
buy.
an e-sport thing, right?
Say it again.
Are you getting a lot of feedback from my?
It sounds all right to me.
Oh,
It's
okay,
just
sorry. So it's sending my voice back a little bit. So I was just wondering, what is it?
Is it an esport?
Is it an e-sport iRacing?
I'm not sure.
I had a feeling about because I was looking at esports the other day, and we've just an Australian Federation for Esport has just come up, and I think iRacing came up. They hadn't got any motorsports, so I sent them an email saying if they would be interested in putting MotoGP on there and MX bikes.
So I don't think motocross is on there. I think it's just
Mm.
cars at the moment.
Yeah,
But
they're mostly just cars.
yeah, I think it's just cars. Um, but you can buy pretty much any track that exists for road racing, which is really good for me because you can buy your local track and get 1,000 laps on that track before you even go to it. And then when you go
Yeah,
to that track, the trees are in the same places. Normally, the porta potties are in the right places. Where the cars are
oh
parked,
wow, so it's that.
it's like exact. These tracks are laser scanned, just like I said, of
Yeah,
course, or Gran Turismo, but they're so accurate. The bumps are where the bumps are. Like it's
that's
like cheating.
intense.
It's like cheating because you just have all this new information. And I podcasted with a guy who's a driving coach and real race car driver now in real life. I say real life because he won a championship in iRacing, and through that he got propelled to getting a real seat drive in a car in Canada, and he ended up yeah, after never being in a real race car, just winning a championship on his PlayStation or computer, however it's set up, then getting a real call from a race team to go race this car. By the end of the season, getting on the podium and winning races, um, just shows you how competitive you can be. And they still have series like Gran Turismo. They used to have one a few years ago. The top few people got to drive the car, and the top winner of that got the seat for the year. So you can't discount this stuff. I mean, in real life, there's no reset button. Yes, you can't make as many mistakes, but in the game, you can make as many mistakes as you want and just go
I
back to
guess that's the point of it, really. It's that safe environment with thing we talked about before, and you can get your hours up safely and then be training and then go out there and potentially it's again a risk mitigation thing
yeah.
because
And
you've had this certain amount of time and you're less likely to crash.
my buddy Swelio Almeida, he has his own coaching program, or it's called the Motor Racing Checklist. He's making a book right now, but he also has a course you can take. He'll coach you directly one-on-one, and he'll watch your sim racing and tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. Are you steering too hard? Are you having too much rotation? Are you getting on the throttle too soon? They'll look at the data, they'll analyze it, or he will, and give you some real-time feedback so you can make improvements. And he'll also give you things like he'll tell you to induce oversteer or understeer, so you can understand what that actually does to the car. It's very similar from cars to bikes. We just have a couple extra tires and less risk in the car, but it's the same concept. If we have tons of lean angle on the bike, you can only get to so much throttle. Once we reduce that lean angle, come up to straight, we can get back in the throttle. Same thing with steering angle. It's the same concept, just different controls. So that things that apply to bikes pretty much apply to cars. It's just in a car you have a lot less risk. I like to say in a bike you have more physical risk, in a car you have more financial risk.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Same idea. So yeah, I think sims are great. I got staring at 5 feet away from me right now. I think it's great. Assetto Corsa is really all you need. iRacing would be the next step up, but
Yeah.
it's not necessary. It just offers more tracks, more cars available, different cars.
Yeah.
I'm actually really interested in applying that coaching sort of technique with augmented reality so I can push this business globally. I think that would be a future step for the business I'm in at the moment. I'm quite, and you've probably seen where Apple's going with their spatial computing technology. So I think once that's out, we're going to see a big shift in our ability to coach across language barriers and countries.
That'd be cool.
Very cool. So
I mean, we have Google Translate, but it takes a minute right now. Like
translate with ChatGPT.
Oh, okay. Is that where it's
So
at?
I actually had a client reach out to me the other day who spoke Guatemalan Spanish, so a dialect. So it was dialectically different. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. And I was sort of like, how am I going to achieve this? And he wrote in Guatemalan Spanish, and I popped it through ChatGPT, and it came out with the corrected dialect.
Wow, that's cool.
That's crazy, hey? Because I sent it to him. I'm like, is this okay? Is this how we can communicate? And he was like, yeah, that's perfect.
Now, a lot of times when I'm coaching in the cars, we get in Las Vegas people from all around the world who maybe speak zero English. So you're going 120 miles an hour down the straightaway in a Ferrari, and it's like brake. I don't speak English, so you got to use a lot of hand signals. Brake, release the brake, turn in, pointing.
It's the global language, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult sometimes when they speak Chinese and you're supposed to still give them a quick briefing before, but they don't understand a word you said. It's like, is that helpful?
Yeah, I doubt we'd be far off competent translators that can take a voice and pop it back out again, which will be really cool.
I think I've seen I don't know if it's real or not, but like a device on like TikTok where someone talks into this little thing in their hand and it translates it straight away.
Sort of cool.
And talks to the person in the other language.
Yeah, and really that's just looking towards giving us the ability to coach a larger demographic of people, which is really cool.
Absolutely. It's I speak quite a bit of Spanish, few words in Italian, few words in German, but not enough to really coach someone in the car with those other two. But actually, I think I have a date on Wednesday with a girl who speaks almost no English.
Awesome.
So she speaks a lot of Spanish, and I'm getting better at it. So I'm looking for a spicy Latina girlfriend that I can learn from.
There you go. Hopefully your date goes well.
I'm excited for it. So Never dated someone who didn't speak English before. It'll be a new thing.
Yeah, well, that would be new for me as well, I'd say. I had German ones.
So very good. Let's see. I'm just looking through your list over here. Yeah, you were talking about AI and coaching. I think that's going to be interesting for us as coaches because I mean, where do you think AI is going to stop? AI could take over any job, right? I mean, there are now painters and artists, and
Yeah.
I saw that there's a Drive, I think drive61.com, I believe it is. I think they offer AI coaching. Like the AI will look at your data in sim racing and tell you exactly where you can make up more time. I'm like, well, that's awesome, but also scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Kind of, yes, it is, and I think that's it's good to talk about this then, as from a coaching perspective, because I had a long chat with one of the coaches, motorcycle performance coach over here yesterday about this exact topic. And there's a couple of things in regards to AI that need to be understood, really. So people's understanding of AI is a little different to the actual fact at the moment. So it's not artificial intelligence that everyone's seeing with ChatGPT. It's what's called a large language model, which you may know, but if people are listening to this, that will help. And the idea is that it's essentially a whole heap of data up until, say, 2014 or 16. They've popped it in, and really that the artificial intelligence that we see is like a parrot. So it just looks at all the data and goes, cool, this is the right or hallucinated wrong answer. And that's where there's a term in the data science community called human in the loop. And it's a human in the loop approach to AI, where it's essentially the idea is to augment what we do as opposed to replace what we do. So in the situation that you're talking about, where AI might be able to incredibly competently visualize what a human needs to do to take seconds off their time, would not be able to be implemented without the intuition, empathy, and ability of the coach next to them. So you might be able to look at this thing. Oh, sorry, let's do two situations. Say Jet's the driver, and I gave him the outline of what was going on. He might look at that and be like, "What? I don't understand how to implement these things." But as the coach, it's taken out that part of your job, absolutely. But those jobs tend to be sort of like the drudgery jobs, like writing emails and all those kinds of things. And you get to do your really important job, which is be the human in that loop and be the human as part of that training cycle. And that's the way I take it. And that's the way I've been talking to other coaches in my industry about AI. I think there's definitely the potential for it to be used as like a cash grab to develop an incredible amount of content, which isn't particularly useful. But I think the coach is always going to be important. And when you talked about people who paint and all those kinds of things, the creative is going to be important, because the generative AI can't be creative. It can put a whole lot of different things together, but it can't have that creative approach. And when we're talking about coaching, it might be the process where tomorrow Jet's going to the physio, so he's not going to be able to do a certain amount of exercises that might swell his knee. And I can't tell that because, I mean, Jet might be able to jump on and give it the correct prompt, be like, what should I do? But as the coach, it means I can come in and intuitively decide what the best approach to that situation is. So going back to what I said, as a coach, I think it's important to understand that the human is still the essential part of that process. And yeah, we're augmenting, not replacing the human. What else did I want to talk about that? You mentioned those tools that give real-time feedback. I think boxing has just got an AI implementation where it can stop cheating, essentially, because it can see every little hit and give accurate points. But what that does, I mean, you've seen how that affects games like soccer and stuff. It can slow down the play. Or I'm not sure if soccer has it, but I know football over here does. It has replays. But it's always accurate, and there's less discussion, no arguments, I guess, but or less indecisiveness about what occurred. So in that way, it's augmenting our humans' ability to get things right. I
I
suppose,
think that's
and
cool.
not taking it away.
Like to see if the ball actually crossed the line or if it went out of bounds or
Mm.
something like that. Like it's so close we can't tell. But if we had
Yeah,
AI on there, they might be able to tell in 0.2 of a second rather than waste 10 minutes on a replay.
Yeah, and they can get on with like the next play, or
yeah, quicker.
yeah, if it's a tennis match, they can do the next round.
Yeah. Or in like say hard enduro, not so much motocross, they have issues where they can't see the track. So
Yeah.
people might cut the track,
Mm.
whereas like an AI drone might be able to pick that up.
Yeah.
So I see that as positive. But going back to what so sort of our jobs, so currently I implement it for, and I'm not sure if you've looked on my Instagram or anything, but what we have is a whole shot daily, and it's a daily workout that's body weight based, and it's programmed using AI, and it's programmed using prompts that I've developed through GPT, and I also input data that will assist with that programming, and that's sort of an experiment to see what I can do with that. But the beauty of that, and what I sort of tell some of my clients, is that gives everybody access to strength conditioning and fitness with a smaller amount of output from me. So I can continue doing this job. And people don't pay for that. They can just jump on my Instagram and be like, cool, this is the workout I'm doing today. And because they're motivated to train, I want them to do that. But I can't spend a lot of time on it because I have my own real job. So that's a benefit that I use it for at the moment. Post that, taking relevant data from the job that I do, inputting it into a large language model through what's called a CAT, or a conversational model, will give the AI or large language model context of what I'm doing. So it can output things in the context of strength conditioning for motorsport races. And then we go back to the human in the loop approach. So everything has to be checked, because a lot of the time, let's say 50% of the time, it will come up with something inappropriate. So I have to go through and be like, cool, that's not an appropriate way to go about it. Let's take that out and put something else in. And that offsets my workload so that I can fully focus on my clients who require the focus.
It's more of now we're going to be editing some of the information that they spit out.
And yeah, it's currently it's 100% not appropriate not to be using this human in the loop approach that I'm sort of talking about. You can't just spit things out and ethically, I think, and have people do them and ask for money for it, because it's just not it's not going to be an effective program, really. It might be for a little while, but when you talk about all the planning that has to go into it and the knowledge and intuition that has to go into a program or your daily coaching sessions, I don't think that can be replaced currently.
Yeah, that's far away ways from completely replacing us, but it's getting to the point where it's like becoming interesting to see where it's going to go.
It's very interesting, and that it's good to talk about it now, I think. And the way I'm going with it is just being open about it,
Sure.
and not trying to just make things and give them to people, and just trying to understand the space and where we're going with it is, yeah, really important, I think.
Sure. So, do you have any more time on your plate to incur or have more clients come on your plate, come on your programs?
I don't. Potentially after Red Bull Romaniacs is finished. So,
Okay.
like I said, I have my team programming, and anyone can get on that. It's basically, so there's the programming that's on Instagram, anyone can do that. I have team programming that's a low cost, which anyone can do. And then I have my professional programming, which is a completely different ballgame. So on team programming, I can take infinite amount of people. But yes, with these guys, I probably take from 6 to 8 people personally.
Okay. So
otherwise it becomes too much of a no.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to take some of your advice, get some of your coaching, what would they have to do? Do they have to contact you through Instagram or?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's www.motostrengthcoach.com.au, and there's a thing called Video Ask on there. It's basically just a video prompt, almost like, did you read Goosebumps when you were a kid?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember how you go through and you go to the different pages? So it's like that. So it'll come up, I'll have a chat to you through a video, and then you press one of the answers as to what you want to do, and it'll just take you to the correct area. which is kind of cool. My website is going through a little bit of development at the moment, which nobody will probably see from the back end, but it's to be more inclusive of all disciplines of motorcycles as opposed to just the adventure side, because the interest is there. So yeah, we're just developing there at the moment.
Very good. And, you know, people say to me all the time, well, you're just sitting down on a motorcycle. Why do you need to work out for that? I'm like, well, yeah, we sit down for like 10 seconds. You sit down for like 10 seconds a lap, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think as well, what I've noticed, a lot of people come either because they are professional and they want to be competitive in their field, or they want to be more comfortable. That tends to be the biggest thing. They would like to go out and be more comfortable and confident to ride their bike without coming across any issues that are going to stop them, especially when we're talking about extended trips overseas, because you don't want to get an injury or a niggle that could be preventable, stopping you from doing your one trip around the world that you've been planning for a long time. So it's a very small cost over 12 months to ensure that doesn't happen. And when you compare it to medical costs post injury, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to do some physical activity prior to doing anything like that.
Oh yeah, you got to work up to it before you ride around the world.
And especially sort of there's a big, and you sort of mentioned it before, concept that to get better at riding, like you ride the motorbike, or to get better at riding, you ride the motorbike, which is true. That's valid and it's a fact. But for a professional, you could be doing more in a safe environment outside of utilizing the bike. Or for an amateur, they tend to take their bikes out on weekends. So what are we doing with the rest of that week?
Right.
And, doing stuff to improve our riding on the weekend.
Yeah, and I would say, yes, riding to get better fit at riding is beneficial, but it's also way more expensive than going to the gym.
And less safe, like we've mentioned before.
More risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to be able to train like I do. That's why I do a lot of cycling, is because it's training for riding a motorcycle. Now, you don't have to throttle. You know, it's not an e-bike. It's a bicycle, push bike. But you get still the same mechanics. You still got the grips and the tires, and it's pretty much the same kind of machine. And actually, from getting into cycling, I became a mountain bike racer. So I raced mountain bikes. I won a championship in that as well, just from training for riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
And I would always be killing everybody in the downhill sections, all the technical parts. And it comes to the uphill, I'm like, I'm struggling, you know? So just working on that cardio, because if you're trying to be a professional mountain bike racer, oh my goodness, those guys do like 1,000 miles a month. Significant amount of cardio. So I would always do lots of cardio, low weight training, because I don't want to bulk up, right? I want to stay lean and fit, but still be strong, but just do tons of cardio with running and biking and just being out inside, sauna work, hot yoga, stretching capabilities, and physical. You know, being flexible, I think, is way underrated, especially for motorcycle racing, because when you hit the ground, not if, but when you hit the ground, you want to be able to bend and not break. And I think it's helped me out tremendously from doing the hot yoga in particular, where that's 105 degrees for 90 minutes, and you always do the same movements, but you get heat acclimated. So when it's so hot outside, I'm not as tired as the next guy. I'm used to this. This is normal for me. But if you're not acclimated to that and you're not flexible, you can have a bad day out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Like if you're at the racetrack and it's a really hot day, yeah, some people go sit in the air conditioned truck or their trailer where it's air conditioned, and then they come outside and they're not used to the heat.
Yeah.
Like where I like to stay out of the truck and go watch the races and get used, like climatize. And yeah, same sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so helpful, and maybe it'd be nice right before the race to start off cool. I'm not sure. I haven't had the luxury of having AC at the track.
Yeah. I don't have there's not many like ACs at the track, but I know there's a few people with like a big setup like that. And obviously I still have like a cold towel around my neck and sipping water and trying to stay cool, but yeah, it's the heat. You're still like climatizing.
I mean, going through that thought process, it would potentially be better just to turn your air cons off 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
So even if you're at home, just like if you really want to compete and be acclimatized, just cut the aircon away, pop some fans on,
Save
2
some
weeks
money
out,
on it
and then
and AC for
spend
sure.
some money on your electricity. Yeah.
And you talked about briefly altitude acclimation. So that's a really big thing as well. And I haven't been doing it in the last few months, but I do have a training mask where it simulates high altitude. So you're rebreathing carbon dioxide expelled from you, and you're only breathing through a tube. It's like breathing through a straw. You only get a small amount. I think that's really, really helpful.
Mm.
Learning how to operate in low oxygen environments, or just when you're at your limit of physical endurance and you can still push harder because you know how to breathe properly, because you can't be breathing shallowly in and out. You have to have a full breath in, full breath out. And I used to run with a group of people, and I would run with the training mask on and be faster with everybody else without the mask on.
Yeah.
And then, we hate you. This is no fun anymore.
I think there's definitely a mental resilience element to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
it's tough. It's like the first time you put
yeah,
it on, I was just walking around my apartment and I'm like, I'm gonna pass out just walking around doing nothing. And then you
yeah.
wear it 17 more times, you're like, okay, I can do this.
Have you worn a gas mask before?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, it's no fun. It's like the same kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
less oxygen.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Mm.
Imagine doing a mountain bike race with a training mask on.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
particularly difficult. I think
But think about how
from what
good
I've
you'd be
heard from people like,
afterwards.
hey,
Think about how great you would be if you could do it, if you actually tried it and you came out the other side and
yeah,
didn't die, right?
I would have to do a little bit more research into the masks nowadays because I think it's been about 10 years since I've looked at those as a training device. So they may have changed a little bit. I
I
do
would
know the most
recommend it.
effective method. I do know the most effective method for that style of training is to sort of create your own altitude chamber and sleep in it.
Okay.
Uh, and that's actually apparently quite easy. I think I watched Lance Armstrong on YouTube make one, and it's all it is just a cylinder with two doors, and then they change the oxygen levels in there, so you get a good 8 hours of acclimatization, and then you hop straight out into your training.
So when I was young, they diagnosed me with exercise-induced asthma. But I played sports throughout my whole life, 12 years of soccer, hockey, ice hockey. And when I played hockey in high school, I did the varsity high school team, made that team, and I found out that I didn't have asthma. I just had weak lungs. So I had this device. It was a handheld device. It was just like the training mask, but you blow into it and you breathe out of it the same way, but you hold it. It's not something you wear. And so I would
Yeah,
do that every single time before I played hockey, and it would help me out tremendously because I thought of it like push-ups for your lungs. So how often do you actually work on your lungs as an activity, a workout? Most people never. But when my brother was doing DCI, I found out about this power lung, it was called, because they were doing breathing exercises so they could run across the field and play their instruments at the same time
yeah,
and still have oxygen to do that. So that's how I kind of got into it, and it changed my whole. I wouldn't say it changed my life, but it changed my physical activity of being able to perform high with feeling like I can't breathe. Um,
yeah. Well,
so
that
that's
is
why, yeah. So that's why I got into it, and I highly recommend it to anybody who has trouble breathing, who thinks they have asthma, or who does have asthma and uses inhalers, or if they're completely fine and they want to elevate that performance. I mean, if you can run a mile breathing through a tube, imagine how good you'll be normally. It'll just help you have more oxygen to draw from, I think. Your lungs will work more efficiently. It's one aspect of training I don't think many people go down because they're like, I
yeah.
can breathe fine. It's all right. Um, it's something yeah, look into it. Training mask.
Yeah.
One of the brands. There's probably more than one out there now.
The breathing side of things, we do talk about more in a stress management situation. So we do breathing techniques for that style of stuff, like post race on the racing line. And we try and do it consistently so that when you get to that point, it's effective. It's not just like we're just starting to learn how to do it.
Yeah. Nature at that point.
Yeah, that's pretty effective. But yeah, it would be good.
And I
See
find
how that went.
a lot of my students who are not used to being on the racetrack most of the time, I've at least one time a session, I tell them, are you breathing over there? Make sure you're breathing. Like, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Don't forget to breathe, because they're so tense. Like, oh, I'm driving this car really fast. Like, relax those arms. You don't need to be stiff arming that steering wheel. Just take a deep breath. You're doing great. You know.
It really is such a good coaching cue because, and I say it a lot. It's like, just go back to breathing.
Yep.
When you're stressed, when you do that, like the first thing you can think about is breathing, and that will assist you to regulate. Yeah, it is. It's good to hear another coach uses that that much as well. From not different backgrounds, but yeah,
similar styles. So, Jet, where can people find you online? Where are you out there on the internet? What's your Instagram or social media?
So, yeah, I have an Instagram and a Facebook. They're the same name. So it's just jet dot JET dot ALSOP 42. 42 is my race number.
Okay, very good. I'll have everybody check that out. Are you a YouTube video creator? Are you out there making videos?
No. I post a few videos on TikTok of riding and but no, I'm just mostly on Instagram.
Okay. And you said you had a TikTok. What is that handle?
It's the exact same, I'm pretty sure. So just jet.alsop42.
Very good. And when do you think your next race will be that you'll be able to compete in?
So I reckon I'll be back on the bike in about 6 months. So I'd say maybe late January, early February.
Okay, very good. And when does your season start and end?
I would say like probably March is the big races, but there's like heaps of local like championships and events and like club days going on like everywhere each weekend from like probably like that late February or early February, sorry.
Okay. All right.
it'd be good to get ready for next season.
I got you. Yeah. Get a couple,
that's the plan.
Yeah, get a couple amateur races in before you go up to the pros again.
Yep. Do a few. Yeah, just like almost sort of like a warm up to the big races.
Yeah, get all those jitters out, those butterflies.
Yep. A few race starts.
Yeah, it's the big one, hey.
Yeah.
And a few hole shots.
Yep.
We had actually been working on reaction timing with that as well, which has been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I do it every time the light turns green.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
So Jet, what's on your mind? Is there anything you wanted to talk about today?
No, it's I'm just happy to be here and listen to what you have to say and put my little bit of like 2 cents into it and pretty happy with how everything's gone.
Good. Yeah. So it'll take me like a week or two to get this edited and posted. It shouldn't be too long though. But when it does, I'll be sure to tag both you guys and share it on all platforms. It'll be on YouTube and Spotify, all the big platforms out there, Apple, iTunes, Google Podcasts, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. I'll make sure I post that out.
Yeah, I think we're coming up to 2 hours here, so we probably wrap it up if you like.
Yeah, so I definitely need a bit of a bathroom break.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure I'll talk to you real soon. And everybody go check out Jet on Instagram and, of course, Benjamin Nott, motostrengthcoach.com.au, right?
Yep. Yeah, same handle on YouTube as well.
Very good. Well, check them out and get some training, get fit. No sitting on the
Awesome.
couch.
Thanks for having us on,
Thank
Eric. We
you.
really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Talk to you soon, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.